So, yesterday the internet was kind of blowing up with the whole microtransaction loot box bill that is being proposed by a senator. And there's a lot of people on both sides of the fence regarding this. And so today I wanted to read an article that was written by Dave Thier on Forbes, and this is actually a really good article, and I wanted to read it to you guys and kind of give my thoughts on it, because as you can see from the title of this, new microtransaction loot box bill could devastate video game publishers if it passes. That is entirely true. Just from the title alone, if video game companies do not make a drastic change, if this bill passes, they could see a very, very big decline in their own stocks, as well as just their own revenue in general. And it wouldn't take much to change things, but they just don't seem to care. I mean, one thing is they don't care about their consumers. That we already know, because if they did, they wouldn't have implemented microtransaction and loot boxes all together. But let's go ahead and read this article. We're going to, read as much as we can without it being a drastically long video. So he writes, Josh Hawley, the Republican freshman senator from Missouri, proposed a bill regulating loot boxes today. The proposed bill is mostly an outline right now, but it aims to apply consumer protections to video games using loot boxes, pay-to-win mechanics, or other monetization methods deemed manipulative. Hawley defines those mechanics in the proposal. Loot boxes, microtransactions offering randomized or partially randomized rewards to players. Pay to win, manipulation of a game's progression system, typically by building artificial difficulty or other barriers into the game's progression to induce players to spend money on microtransactions to advance through content supposedly available to them at no additional cost. Pay-to-win manipulation of the competitive balance between players of multiplayer games by allowing players who purchase microtransactions competitive advantages over other players. That we already know. Pay-to-win's been kind of a term that we've been using for quite some time. Honestly, I can't even think back to when I first started using the term pay-to-win, which is a scary thought, really, because we as a video game society have become sort of numb to this kind of thing, to where we use pay to win in our vocabulary on a regular day basis when referring to a lot of multiplayer games, and that's not really an okay thing. It's really not. The Entertainment Software Association was quick to respond with a statement. We read this in the previous article. Numerous countries, including Ireland, Germany, Sweden, Denmark, Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom, determined that loot boxes do not constitute gambling, which they 100% do. We look forward to sharing with the senator the tools and information the industry already provides that keeps control of in-game spending in the parents' hands, which it does not. Parents already have the ability to limit or prohibit in-game purchases with easy-to-use parental controls. They do not. Okay, that's via Kotaku. That's the article that we read yesterday. Concern over loot boxes have been simmering for a long time, but dramatically accelerated after a high-profile controversy surrounding Star Wars Battlefront 2 that ultimately saw the game completely revamping its monetization systems, which actually made the game a lot better. Since then, parts of the industry have pulled back. Other monetization methods like battle passes or more straightforward premium shops are in vogue now, at least for those games. Not for Battlefront. There's nothing there to go into something like that. But that applies to a specific type of traditional AAA game. For other games, pay-to-win microtransactions and loot boxes are still very much a major driving factor. In the console space, EA's Ultimate Team could easily qualify and currently makes up about 50% of EA's live service revenues, And this sort of legislation would completely upend the mobile market. where nearly every major game outside of Fortnite relies on these methods to some degree. Yes, that is entirely true. A lot of these companies have gone to the mobile market because it's so easy to put microtransactions into the mobile system. And to give you an idea, if you guys aren't aware, it's so easy to just go. So you whatever game you're playing, okay, if you're playing any of the EA games, Square Enix games, whatever game you're playing, even if it's a small developer, if you go into the purchase section where you would buy your currency, I mean, first off, a lot of these games have what we call banners on them, and the banners have either the newest characters or the newest upgrades or whatever it is, whatever type of game you're playing. Those banners are there to basically have a power creep or make it so that in order to progress faster, I'm not going to say to properly progress in the game, because the truth of the matter is that these games have no ending to them, and that's how they're designed. So to progress faster, you would have to summon or order on these banners, and in order to properly do that, you have to not necessarily purchase, but you have to have the currency in order to summon or order on these banners. And sometimes the games just don't give them to you, and then you're forced to make the purchases. And it's so easy to just bill your mobile carrier. You don't necessarily need to bill your bank account. You bill your mobile carrier, and boom, now your mobile bill is higher. Either way, you're paying for it. You're gonna pay for it either way, and it's so easy. So they target these mobile markets. And the thing is, the whole thing with the spiel of, you know, that parents can control it easier, not entirely. No, like I mentioned in my previous videos, it's so easy for kids to find ways around things. So easy. You know, it's as a kid growing up, you know, I always looked for different ways to work around the system to get what I want, you know. And that's how it is. It's the same thing. Kids will find a way. There's no real way to stop them aside from taking away the phones. Now, you know, I have kids myself, and my kids are too young for phones. I'm not going to give them phones, not till they're like 16. And, you know, my daughter's come up to me and she said, "Oh, you know, Papa, my friend has a phone at school." I said, "Doesn't matter. You're not getting a phone, not till you're 16. End of story." And that's how it should be. But, you know, parents nowadays, they don't do it. They don't do that. Instead, they give their kid a phone and they let them do whatever the hell they want. And that's not right. That is not right. It really isn't. My daughter, she plays a 3DS. She doesn't play games on a phone. And that way, she doesn't get microtransactions thrown in her face constantly. Going back to this, though. This is far from the first clash between government and the video game industry over loot boxes. The FTC began looking into the issue last year, and many publishers pulled loot boxes from their games in Belgium following legislation that classified loot boxes as gambling. Yes, thank you. And I honestly feel like that should just straight up be a thing. I'm okay with that. To get rid of it altogether. I am fine with that. Make the developers find other ways to make the games interesting enough and good enough for us as consumers to want to play the game. Even if we have to pay maybe a monthly fee, I would actually be okay if we paid a monthly fee to whatever game we enjoy, so that way they can keep the doors open, keep the game up and running. I'd be okay with that. But don't make it so we have to pay an astronomical amount for in-game currency just to throw it away at something that we have a chance to get. Nothing's guaranteed that we're going to get what we want. That's gambling. That is 100% gambling. The proposal specifically talks about the sale of these games to minors, which could theoretically fall under the age rating systems employed by the ESRB. But few would argue that the industry's attempts at self-regulation have been successful. Loot boxes are tremendously popular among game executives, but it's hard to imagine the vast majority of people that play games would miss them if they disappeared. And honestly, so if you haven't watched my last video, go watch my last video. We've been having a conversation on there amongst different people that some people don't want what's called the gacha system to go away in these mobile games, for example, or the loot boxes, because they feel like if they go away and they implement some sort of other system similar to like a DLC fighters pass, or season pass for characters like they do in fighting games, then it could become very play to win in that regard, and then the people who don't have the money wouldn't be able to get those characters. And I see that side of the argument, but at the same time, there are ways around it to basically come to a compromise so all parties are satisfied. But this is the video game company video game industry we're talking about, where it's full of greed. Nobody cares about us and the things that we want, which is highly unfortunate, because they used to buy a game for $60, and that's the entire game. There's no DLC, no nothing. That's the game. And if you want to unlock other things in the game, you have to do certain tasks, which then unlock the extras in the game or secrets in the game. Nowadays, there's no more extras, no more secrets, depending on the game. Some of them still have it, but very few do. Most of them now come in DLC format, which we'll talk about in another video. This video is specifically about microtransactions and loot boxes. So let's see. Microtransactions have been a heated topic in the gaming industry essentially since they debuted. One of the first I remember was the notorious horse armor for Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, but they've expanded dramatically over the years, even as developers and publishers have sought to find the kinds of balance that can bolster their revenue without being seen as overtly predatory, which is just another way of saying, yeah, I'm going to shove this in your face, but make it seem like I'm not. So that way I prey off of your addiction without you realizing it. That's what that is. 100%. They do it successfully. Oh my God, do they do it successfully? And people, we as consumers, again, are numb to this kind of practice because we see it so much that now, to us, it's like an everyday thing, and we don't fight back. If we fought back, this would be an entirely different topic that we're discussing today. The explosion of free-to-play games over the past decade has only amplified the issue, and these monetization practices have largely grown despite the gamer discontent. Recently, we've seen no microtransactions as a prominent selling point for AAA titles, yet they still put them in there. Even if plenty of other games continue to lean on them for the lion's share or the entirety of their revenues. I would expect this fight to go away. I wouldn't expect this fight to go away anytime soon in the US or elsewhere. If the industry won't self-regulate, it's entirely possible that the government will do it for them. I want to bring up Red Dead 2 really quick. And the reason why I want to bring up Red Dead 2 is because Red Dead 2 came out to us as a complete game. Start to finish, fantastic open world game that you could get lost for hours upon hours upon hours in that game. And it was so well received that everybody ran out the door to go and purchase Red Dead 2, making it one of the best-selling games ever. Okay? On top of that, there was an announcement, there's going to be Red Dead 2 or Red Dead Online, so you can play with your friends in this world. Cool. Awesome. Then what happened? They put in microtransactions. They put in things that we don't want to see in these games, but they did it anyways. Not only did they make a ton of money, not only did they make a ton of money selling the game, but they weren't satisfied with all the rave reviews. They weren't satisfied with the awards that they got from the Video Game Awards. They weren't satisfied with just the sales numbers themselves. No, they had to go and implement microtransactions, and they received a ton of backlash for it. They took a game that's fantastic single player experience and turned the multiplayer experience to shit. So that's a perfect example of a AAA title, no microtransactions, and then later on, here's the microtransactions. We just, it's not in the main game, but it's still here. If you want to play with your friends, you want to play online, here it is. This is not a good thing for the gaming industry. It's really not. And I understand game companies need to make their money. They got to pay their employees. They got to pay for their projects because these games are expensive to make. I 100% understand that. But games existed before microtransactions. Hell, games existed before DLC. But I'm okay with DLC because DLC can be viewed as an expansion of your gaming experience. It's not a microtransaction, it's entirely different. The problem with other countries, specifically when we're talking about numerous countries including Ireland, Germany, Sweden, Denmark, Australia, New Zealand, all those countries, they see DLC, microtransactions, and loot boxes as the same thing, making them put out that it's not gambling when it's entirely two different subjects, and one is 100% gambling. You can't even be 18 in the United States and walk onto a casino floor. If they see you, they will ID you and ask you to leave. I know because it's happened to my siblings. It's happened to my wife when we were younger. So if that's a thing, why is it that minors are allowed to gamble in video games? I'll leave that to you guys. Leave a comment down below. Let's have that conversation. Keep the conversations alive because this is not going to go away, and we need to make our voices heard. So with that, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Make sure you hit the like button, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace out, guys.